This is your last chance, Commander Dan. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue suppository, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red suppository, and we find out just how far the rabbit hole goes.
Suppositories, Commander?
Of course! Morpheus is always getting betrayed and crap. I mean, pills, they don't mean shit. You want to know who's loyal? Make him take the red suppository. That's true faith.
Hey, Commander Dan, who left all these Swedish fish in the bathroom? Nom 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 nom.
My God. Well, back to being revolted by Splat.
Your resolution lasted exactly 1 month, Commander. Congratulations.
Get upset on the internet.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Retro Station 1989. My name is Commander Dan, the commander and lone human inhabitant of the Retro Station. Along with me is Cambot Jr., who's operating the camera and taking care of the video quality and everything. Splat, he's a buddy of mine. He lives in comfort and utility in a wonderful place filled with fruitcake and all the things he could love. And Margot, our AI, who takes care of everything aboard this ship. And this is License to Play. This is a show where we review licensed video games from the past. Retro games, you know, stuff based on movies, TV, books, comics, breakfast cereal, fast food mascots. Let's just say that if it had a license and it's a retro game, we evaluate it to see if it has a license to play. And this week, we continue our licensed titles of Action Month. That's right, we're going to be doing action-based movies. Folks, our second entry is none other than the 90s action classic, the movie that changed everything, and is a requested evaluation from our very own AI and ship's, well, everything, Margot.
Affirmative, Commander Dan. And many thanks. As a synthetic intelligence, the idea of a society run purely by machines intrigues me.
I bet. I also bet that this could cause trouble down the road, but I'm not that bright. So let's go ahead and plow into this evaluation, beginning with a look at the end of the old days and the beginning of the new. Cambot, fire up that footage. 1999. It was the year we were all supposed to be partying like it was, and damned if we were far less interested in partying like it was 1999, and was more like we were scurrying like it was about to be Fallout 6, and all of the computers in the world were going to reverse gravity, give toddlers adult haircuts, and cause all pets to become unspayed and neutered, and Bob Barker to get both spayed and neutered. Just saying, the Y2K crisis was very real, and amidst all this techno fear, we were primed for movies that preyed upon these fears. There was The 13th Floor, about a virtual reality holodeck mystery. Then there was Existence, a Cronenberg movie that was a mix of the evolution of Videodrome mixed with the subject of today's evaluation. The machines take over, basically. And what is real? And all this technophobia led to, well, not much. Apparently, the media blew the possible problems with computer systems and their lack of ability to compute a 4-digit date structure way out of proportion. I know, shock. And we all underestimated the dedication of software engineers, hardware engineers, and basically humans themselves. You know, I wonder if there's something to be learned from all that. I, for one, learned one thing. That The Matrix was fucking awesome. When The Matrix came out, I was a grown-ass man, but like a lot of other Gen Xers out there in that era, this flick was like experiencing the movies of the 80s all over again. The Matrix was an event. I mean, it was, well, until my opinion, Avengers, when the paradigm of action movies was actually fundamentally changed again. But The Matrix just was unique in the way that it did everything. The Matrix inspired movie wire work and high-concept martial arts, features like commercialized action, and, man, you know, just sleek, cool aesthetics for genre flicks, where aesthetic was just as important as content, but hadn't been really latched onto until The Matrix. And Avengers? Well, for better or worse, proved the concept of the shared universe for a franchise. And infected film for the foreseeable future. I mean, turning every nostalgic property into Smash Brothers Melee. The Matrix, though, did it first and established the Wachowskis as a royalty of high-concept action movies. Let's take a look at the Wachowskis, their films, and their influences for this 90s action masterpiece. Hey, I'm gonna start now. Okay? Sure. I'll just be here in the room, so to speak. Carry on. Okay. The Wachowskis are directors of a certain stripe that critics often brand as iconoclasts, as boundary-breaking filmmakers, and most often they use the word auteur. You know, folks like David Lynch, Kubrick, Quentin Tarantino, my buddy Kev Smith. These people make movies that really only they can make, especially in the case of David Lynch. The Wachowskis began their career by... Seriously, are you just going to stand there burnishing your hoofs or wherever the fuck elf alums have?
I'm just here, in the room, waiting for you to address me.
What? What is your problem? Also, I'm pretty sure the Nostalgia Critic is hiring. Why don't you jog on and take this convenient joke of his back to where it comes from? Fine, let's address you, the elephant in the room. The Wachowski sisters are trans women who created one of the greatest action movies of all time. The movie and all associated licensed materials use their former gender titles and pronouns all over the place. And for a trans person, that kind of thing can feel insulting, or at worst, just plain hateful. So yeah, during this evaluation, I'll be referring to the creators of The Matrix as the Wachowskis or Wachowski sisters, even though to talk about the movie, I'll be showing behind-the-scenes footage, which may have glimpses or seconds of the Wachowskis before transitioning. Understand that this is historical reference and not out of some hateful impulse that they appear here. I'm aware that they used to be identifying as male and now they're identifying as female. It's called being a grown-up. That's what they want. Let them be that. Now be gone, elephant in the room. Jesus. All right, so let's start our story in the year 1994. The Wachowskis sold Warner Brothers their screenplay for Assassins, a Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas flick about a pair of assassins, elites going at each other, which kind of felt like a furtive attempt to have the studio have Stallone hand off his action star torch to Antonio Banderas, based primarily on the work he'd been doing in the upcoming Desperado, and, well, we'll all talk about that sometime later, in probably a staff picks regarding one of my favorite movies of all time. For now, that script led to a taut noir thriller called Bound, where the Wachowskis directed a critically acclaimed flick and established their cutting-edge sense of style, and their eccentric style of directing. Bound had a sex coordinator and consultant for the love scenes, to make them both accurate, and unlike past love scenes, which were just excuses for TNA amongst lesbian couples, it was actually, accurate. And with this success, the Wachowskis felt comfortable to ask Warner Brothers to direct The Matrix themselves. Now, the story is well known, well worn, and well tread, like how they wanted Will Smith as Neo, but he chose to play Jim West in Wild Wild West for Warner Brothers also, and how the entire cast was given simulacra and simulation as required reading, and the Wachowskis demanded that the cast be able to explain the plot fully when asked about The Matrix. I mean, you try doing that right now. Even if you love The Matrix, it's hard to do. Right, that guy was supposed to give a synopsis of a philosophical treatise turned into an action movie. That guy. So did I mention the Wachowskis were eccentric? Shit. I wish they would have done that for Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, I couldn't figure that movie out at all. Now, this is the last time I'm going to make that joke, because Keanu Reeves isn't an asshat, pretentious moron, Hollywood stooge. He's actually a lot like Joaquin Phoenix, who's in turns thoughtful, funny, and both have suffered personal tragedies that really, make them more deep than you might imagine. But at the time, yet another action flick with Keanu Reeves was hardly cause for celebration or even really a lot of interest. To say we lacked heightened anticipation for The Matrix, or even cared about its process, was probably gilding the lily a bit. I didn't even know about it. Even WB were nervous about the money being spent, the weird demands of the Wachowskis, and the very concept of The Matrix as a piece of media, until a hero of mine was brought in. This is the art of Jeff Darrow, and he's one of the greatest visual artists in comics, bar none. His work on Godzilla and Hardboiled are just phenomenal, and it created that look of The Matrix's real world and its machine squiddies, and with the Wachowskis, created a 600-page visual bible of storyboards that ultimately sold the suits at WB on the high-concept action flick, and cemented WB's interest with the Wachowskis' perfection of the special effects innovation, bullet time. The opening Cops vs. Trinity scene was sent to WB producers as a proof of concept of how bullet time was going to work, and the style, action, and never-before-seen special effect blew them away. But again, this is all well-worn territory. Everyone who talks about this movie goes over that part. Let's instead talk about something The Matrix was on the frontier of at the time the sequels had been planned and announced. Transmedia storytelling. Now, before Matrix Reloaded was to be released, 2 items were released for its first movie's rabid fanbase. First was a straight-to-home video release DVD called The Animatrix, which purported to be a bridge between The Matrix and Matrix Reloaded. The Animatrix has a segment called The Second Renaissance Parts 1 and 2, and they tell an animated history of the world before the first Matrix. These were also little Easter eggs on the Matrix website, and were shown in order as the build-up to the Animatrix came out. And they explain, a lot in the Animatrix, like why and how Neo seems to be a messiah figure in the years between the end of the first movie and the beginning of the second. It also shows why and how in the most recent Matrix film, how the above-ground humans were working on converting the Squidbots to the human cause. Now, I know people consider the Matrix films beyond the first one to be shallow, beyond the premise that it has, but I disagree. Though, we got to realize that this isn't about the Matrix movies. This week, we evaluate a game and the other 2 games into the bargain, but mostly just the first game.
This week, we're taking a look at a pair of video games. A trio, actually, and diving headfirst into the trippy, stylish, philosophical mind fling that is Enter the Matrix. Enter the Matrix, Path of Neo, and The Matrix Online. Cambot, fire up that footage.
The Matrix and its transmedia positioning for the second film in the announced trilogy was unprecedented. Folks were hyped for the movie, and fans were told that there were parts of the Reloaded story being told in the Animatrix, in the video sections on whatisthematrix.com, which was a repository of Matrix lore and philosophy. On the website, the Second Renaissance played out in small, incremental episodes, giving the backstory to the war between humans and machines, and serving as a countdown to the Animatrix, the direct-to-home video collection. Second, the Animatrix was leading to the first of 3 video games. The first was Enter the Matrix. In the final fight of the Osiris, the last segment of the Animatrix, it ends with Jue dropping off a desperate package, which is a warning that the Sentinel Squiddies are amassing a machine army to wipe out Zion, and they're closer than anyone even thinks. And this sets into motion the events of Enter the Matrix. Now we're going to sidestep, like Neo's sidestepping gunfire and responsibility for all those civilian deaths at that bank in the first Matrix, to a subject I know a bit about: altered reality games, or ARGs. ARGs are most often used these days as a marketing tool, but in the early 2000s, they were a way to create an interactive fiction involving web pages, social media, and email. One of the earliest examples of this was Ted's Caving page, an Angel Fire page, which still exists if you can believe it, which weaves an eerie tale of cosmic horror, beginning as a weird story about a cave on a guy's private, free-to-create Angel Fire site. SCP is another site carrying on this tradition, Creepypasta, which is a branch from the same tree, and more. But transmedia, which means having portions of a story told outside of the main form of that media, wasn't an ARG per se, but used the same elements to whet the audience's interest in an upcoming property. And when am I ever going to have a chance to talk about this game ever again? It's called Evidence, The Last Ritual. It's an immersive experience in seeking a serial killer. It required the player to hunt the killer across seeded sites on the net. The killer would get your cell phone, your email address, and would seemingly email you, text you, call you, stalk you. It was an unnerving experience for that time. And it all stems from the ARG-like transmedia utilized from the Wachowskis, I believe. It became popular at that time. To my knowledge, this kind of outside requirement to enjoy a film has only happened twice. First, with Matrix Reloaded, and second, with the very strange film Southland Tales. Southland Tales required viewers to be familiar with 3 volumes of comics to take on the crazy-ass vision of the future presented by Richard Kelly, the guy who directed Donnie Darko. 300 pages of comics to give the viewer the basic understanding necessary to explain all this. More recently, Cloverfield's ARG was legendary. Its second ARG was passable, and the Cloverfield Paradox ARG was a stitched-together last-minute kit bash without a lot of polish or content, which offended most people who are fans of the Cloverfield universe and what they're trying to do, including myself, sadly. I wanted more of an ARG, but unlike the Cloverfield ARG 10/18/01, I believe, or 08, I can't remember, which informed the movie experience, Enter the Matrix as a game introduced concepts, characters, villains, and plot elements that were needed to complete one's experience with the film Matrix Reloaded. Did you ever have that weird feeling while watching the second Matrix movie, Matrix Reloaded, that you missed something prior to walking in? Like, oh, vampires? Merovingian? What the hell is the key guy? What is any of this? And what happened at the power station? Did I miss a reel of footage? You feel that way because you are missing something. Let's talk about that something.
So, the game was designed not just to be an addition to Matrix Reloaded, but part of the Matrix Reloaded experience. I don't think there's been a successful attempt at integrated video game experiences in the way the Wachowskis attempted here. Maybe the Black Mirror episode Bandersnatch, it was a movie on Netflix, it's still out there, you should check it out, it's pretty great. Comes closest to what the Wachowskis were trying, and I believe successfully, did on this movie. So, I love the Matrix sequels, I love them, and I think honestly because I played this game. Let's take a look at how this game came to be, and the other games in the series, which holds lore and substance that permeates even to the most recent Matrix film, Resurrection.
Shiny Entertainment was best known for creating off-the-wall action titles and did a lot to make a name for themselves in the licensed game marketplace. David Perry, a legendary game designer and theoretician in the microcomputer era, was asked to head up Shiny's effort. He balked initially, but more out of a resistance against creating licensed gaming experiences. When interviewed by Aaron Potter at GamesRadar.com, Perry said of the issues with creating licensed games, "Sorry, you can't be the Terminator, and you can't be Sarah Connor. Actually, you can only use one image of Arnold, and you have to play the guy Kyle that dies in the movie," he reflects. He explains what the restrictions were around licensed games that he made him feel like, he didn't want to do it. Then along comes the Wachowskis, and they want to shoot an hour of Matrix-quality movie footage for our game and write the entire story. It was the most exciting project we'd ever been offered. The Wachowskis explained it to me that they wanted to have two experiences. The people that saw the movies would enjoy watching them, but the people that played the games would have a different experience. In the movie, Morpheus falls off a fuel truck, but he's saved by Niobe driving a car. As a gamer, you had to get that car there. You saved Morpheus. But that movie viewer is just as happy to see Morpheus survive. So to be clear, if these two people were watching the movie together, after one had played the game, they'd be having very different experiences. Interview with Games Radar, making of Enter the Matrix by Aaron Potter. So, Enter the Matrix was developed by David Perry and the folks at Shiny Entertainment. Due to their experience creating licensed titles like Aladdin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and others, they were presented with the awesome task of matching up gameplay to an hour of Wachowski's directed filmic content. And did they succeed? Well, we'll go into that during the evaluation, but the production of Enter the Matrix was a 2-year process that asked a metric crap ton of the developers. Warner Brothers participated in the creation of the game, from production images and plot elements, but the biggest hurdle seemed to be getting the color grading and timing to match the first movie when they were in the Matrix. However, the wirework, motion capture, and Wachowski-written story was unique for video gaming, and its transitions from live action to game were innovative as hell. And they led to the same kind of transitions in the Lord of the Rings action games by WB, which were also spectacular. Now, the game came out to middling reviews, and the reasons for that were varied. Repetitive gameplay, long levels, a steep learning curve for controlling the heroes Niobe and Ghost, but, most of all, yeah, you guessed it, no Neo. No Trinity or Morpheus. That was the biggest flaw many players thought the game had. And here's a fact. People who didn't play Enter the Matrix didn't see all there was to Matrix Reloaded. It wasn't just a separate experience, it was a missing experience. As Edge Magazine's Stephen Poole pointed out, the most worrying new precedent that Enter the Matrix sets, though, is with its massively hyped synergy and narrative overlap with Reloaded, is that it seems the film itself has been deliberately made to suffer, to donate some of its lifeblood so that its vampiric brood can feed on it. In Reloaded, Niobe and her crew go to blow up the nuclear power plant, a feat of security bypassing which would presumably require something like a lobby scene squared. Instead, we see nothing until they're already in the control room. Why? Because that's what you get to do in the game instead. The film's sense of rhythm and victory over that threat is compromised just so we can bash buttons on our consoles at home. It's as though James Cameron had cut footage out of Aliens so that it could be rendered in blocky 2D graphics in the 1987 Spectrum and C64 tie-in game released by Electric Dreams, which remains, actually, a superior film-to-game conversion. Please note that Stephen Poole here is overstating and possibly trolling. I mean, come on, it's Edge Magazine. Edge is also the famous magazine asking why we can't talk to the human defiling demons of doom as a feature. So take their opinion with a grain of troll shit. However, an 8-bit game from the Commodore 64 does not beat this game. It's not superior in translating that game to film because James Cameron didn't have shit to do with that game, Mr. Poole, you numbnut. Anyway, Shiny released Path of Neo after that, which is basically a Neo-based story showing the trek of Neo throughout the flicks, and it's fine. It's just fine. It's good. We're evaluating Enter the Matrix this time, and it deserves a full and dedicated look. Now, we'll talk a bit about the MMO, first mainly because the current movie relies on some of the elements from that game and events that happened. When MXO was run by Monolith Studios, it ran it much like an old-school Mux or Mush. Multi-user dungeons. They were interactive text-based RPGs. They're great in my opinion, and treated live events with a lot of care and dedication to delivering as best they could the ongoing saga of the Matrix universe. The MMO had 3 factions, the Zion Red Pill humans, the Merovingian Sneaky Pete's, and those aligning with the machines to make a new future. All 3 were plot elements that were incorporated into the new film. These games meant something to the Wachowskis, and to Warner Brothers and these films. If you didn't participate in these experiences, you missed out. It's the key. It's why people review the movie so critically and harshly and wish there was more. Well, there is. It's these games. I mean, even the death of Morpheus is from the MMO. And it's reflected in the current movie. So today, we're going to evaluate Enter the Matrix, keeping in mind there was a lot going on there. And maybe more than we expected. So, get ready to pop your red suppository. Let's find out how deep that rabbit hole goes. Enter the Matrix was a huge undertaking. The quality and effort shows on the screen on textures, motion capture, and modeling. Even when the game shows off the limitations of the Xbox and the PS2, it's still a grand showcase for what a licensed game was capable of being. Let's talk about plot, which in most action games ain't that important. The end of the final flight of Osiris was a Pyrrhic victory. Nue manages to get the file safely into the hands of the human resistance, and we begin with the crew of the Logos deciding to head up to broadcasting depth and slide into the Matrix to retrieve that file they hid at the Postal Center. So the broadcast went out, and the Logos answers the call because they're the fastest of all the human vehicles. The game allows you to choose to play as Niobe or Ghost, and I usually choose to play as Niobe when I do play, because she's more of a character in Matrix Reloaded than Ghost is. And while they're both a presence, she's more of a presence, unlike Ghost, who's a bit of a cipher, and you're just like, oh, who's that cool guy standing next to Niobe? We'll look at some of the divergences when you play as either character, but for the most part, the game is really similar no matter who you play as, except the driving stages will feature different areas, and Ghost is firing on enemies, and Niobe is driving the vehicle. The biggest divergence is while Niobe is rescuing Axel from the agent, kidnapping him, and Ghost drives a police rambler to chase down the pair as they parachute to freedom. So, beginning of the game, you raid the post office, and are victorious in grabbing the file dump, which reveals that the machine's drilling army is going to drill down into Zion and win the war in a matter of hours, 72 hours to be exact. All of the captains are called back to Zion to coordinate its defense, and Niobe and the Logos are sent to recall all of the captains back to Zion. However, the Nebuchadnezzar can't return yet, as Neo is still futzing around in the Matrix to meet with the Oracle for guidance. The live-action sequence play out as extra content for Matrix Reloaded, and are likely the finest live-action cutscenes ever created for video games, as the Wachowskis did the directing, and Yuen Wo Ping directed the martial arts sequences, and directed the martial arts sequences for the game to get the moves down for each character. This game contains long sequences in the Matrix, and the highlight of the game, the only real pinnacle the game achieves, is a gorgeous quality of the film scenes, as Max Payne did bullet time gun combat better, to be honest. And even the top-notch motion at work from a stunt master, it's great and all, and I think that it barely edges the game into playable status for everyone, but it does leave one important question to be asked.
So, does Enter the Matrix by Warner Brothers, Shiny Entertainment, and the Wachowskis and Atari have a license to play? It's a tough call. Lots of people will find the levels a little too long and repetitive, but what's there is fun to play. It's a good graphical feat for the time as well, and the DVD quality cutscenes, filling in the gaps for the Matrix Reloaded, now that just barely, for me, pushes this over the line to, yes, it has a license to play. So yeah, a license to play, but just barely. I mean, trust me when I say that you ought to seek this out, if nothing else, for the cutscenes to make your experience of the Matrix Reloaded that much more, whole. Even if you don't much like the movies now because you thought they weren't complete, well, take a look at this and maybe you'll get some more completion, you know what I mean? But you should seek it out and play it, even though just know that it drags in some spots. That said, Cambot Jr., go ahead and process the evaluation. And Margot?
Yes, Commander Danderson.
I'm sure that's probably fine. Please send the evaluation to the sponsors at Planet X.
Affirmative, Commander.
Okay, folks, next week, Action Month continues, and what I've got in store is pretty damn epic. I'm talking the epic of epics. The saga of sagas. If you can figure it out, comment down below. If you guess it, that's a no prize for you. So, stay tuned, and more than anything else I've said during this video, this evaluation, or any other evaluation I've given, remember to always, always stay retro. Peace.
Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. Throwing out a hissy fit, your views ain't in the millions, and every up and comer is a threat to what you're dealing. And instead of getting better, you just spout up on your Facebook, crying on your Twitter bit about how bad your case look. In case you didn't get it yet, allow me to rephrase it. You're grandma than my 4-year-old. I'm actually amazed. Like you couldn't even see the forest for the trees. The writing's on the wall, better relieve than a seed. How you getting salt that a culture blowing up, man? I think there was a point where you stopped growing up, man. Instead of showing up, man, irrationally mad. Don't appropriate impression like the latest fashion fad. It isn't cool or funny to be acting like an edgelord. You alienate friends, pushing closer to the edge more. I don't know how to say it anyway to make it clear. If you're the one unhappy, then the problem's in the mirror. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. The net is a repository for the vast expanses of human knowledge and all the technological advances, and I can't say enough how you gotta be open-minded. If you're looking for a fight, then you damn well find it. You got an axe needs grinding, you're not alone. There's a million other nerds who can bitch and moan and groan about how there's a release date delay of the new game. Man, decrease the cliche of your neckbeard. I'm afeared of the intensity of your love for two characters. You claim I've got some chemistry and they belong together. Every other ship is toast. Call you Cortez when you're like, burn the boat. Said your ship is sunk and you stunk like the blogger who insisted to you. The review versus Harry Potter versus Julia Roberts. The latter's the victor. You're about to make a victim of some asshole hipster. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. S-A-L-T. You look stupid, a real ass. When they heard your rant, the people laugh. But please stop, before I'm bored. You're whining like you wanna win some award. S-A-L-T. You're a salt adult. 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 You're a salt adult.